Hello and welcome to Some of My Friends Read Comics. We've got Chris.
Crashing through a window.
Great, we've got Vince.
I'll make you a deal. You can call me Vince instead of Babe, and I'll call you Kia instead of Bozo.
Thank you. That's a good deal. I'm Kia. Hi. Welcome to the show. Today we are reading a bit of Spider-Man from the mid-'80s. We are reading The Death of Jean DeWolff, because apparently January is our death month. Woo! Should we be cheering for death? No, never mind. I take back that woo.
There's only one thing guaranteed in our podcast: death and taxes.
Exactly.
Oh, we should have a tax month. All the tax-related comics every April.
Sure. That'd be great. We also stick around at the end. We are going to continue our read of Secret Wars. We are on issue number 6 of that. Actually, this Spider-Man comic is right after Secret Wars because Spider-Man's got his black Venom suit on. Not called Venom yet, just the black suit. He doesn't really know what it is. Although at some point he takes the hood of his suit off. Could it do that? I thought it was just like a symbiote that formed all around him, right? Okay, yeah, they didn't know what it was yet. It's cool.
No, they do know it. It's don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Not worried about it. So, Death of Jean DeWolff. Who is Jean DeWolff? Vin?
Or Jean DeWolff. Who knows?
Jean DeWolff. Sure. I don't know. I like Jean DeWolff. It sounds fancy.
Well, so so the only time I've ever read Jean DeWolff, or Jean, was that I knew she was like Spider-Man's cop friend. Who helped him out on cases. If you played the Spider-Man PS4 game, Yuri Watanabe, or read Dan Slott's run, you'll kind of that similar kind of role, or Jim Gordon if you aren't in that Spider-Man thing. I don't really know much about her. I was expecting the Death of Jean DeWolff or John DeWolff,
or Maggie Sawyer in Gotham Central,
right?
Which is basically the same character.
I was expecting her to this be her grand big adventure at the end, and then at the end she died, and it was a big tragedy for Spider-Man to have a more recent death than George Stacy or Gwen Stacy, which had been 10, 15 years before this.
Nope,
and then
that's not how this goes.
Oh, and she's also an Ultimate Spider-Man, but as a twist, she's actually a traitor and a bad guy.
Oh no, bad guy!
Yeah, you're oh no, Jean DeWolff, we loved her in the original run. Oh no, actually she works for the Kingpin? OMG. That was what they played with your expectations. But
yeah, she doesn't really get much of a send-off in this.
You know what? I kind of like it because the story is about her death. They're investigating everything post her death because she's dead on page 1?
She's technically dead on the cover. Because the cover of the first... This is from Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, numbers 107 through 110. And on the cover of issue 107, it's someone has killed a woman that I cared about very much, or something like that. I'm I'm going to get them. And I'm oh, is this a different person? And then all this is going to lead to Jean DeWolff dying? Nope. This is just
the shock of the year. But Shocker's not involved.
Shocker's not involved, no. We should also mention that the writer and artist of this, Peter David, wrote this. This was maybe his first gig for Marvel,
this is literally the second published story arc he ever had.
Wow. Good for him. It feels like maybe he wanted to write Daredevil instead, and got given Spider-Man, and just said, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to write a Daredevil story instead. Why not? Because Daredevil is in this a lot. And at times, Peter just I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but there's a couple of scenes where Peter goes somewhere and Daredevil has just already been there and there's nothing to do there, but then we see Peter go there anyways for no reason. Oh boy, good stuff. Spoiler alert for later on in these issues. Am I allowed to say spoiler alert after I gave the spoilers? That's okay. We're going to keep going.
Oh yeah, Jean DeWolff dies.
Jean DeWolff dies.
Yes, in The Death of Jean DeWolff. The penciler is Rich Buckler, who I doubt many of our listeners will have heard of unless they are super fans of 70s comics.
Yeah, I didn't know much about him yet. He does a lot of close-ups of shocked faces. And I'm kind of into it. I like that.
This is, I would say, I am a fan of 70s and 80s comics more so than the average person. Mm-hmm. I think this is the best work he's ever done. Rich Buckler is, if you are a connoisseur of 70s and 80s comics, he did do the first 3 issues of Panther's Rage, which, you might have heard of a little movie called Black Panther that came out in 2018 about a guy named Eric Killmonger, stealing Black Panther's country from him. That's what Panther's Rage was, like a 20-part story. He drew the first 3 parts of that. So that was a pretty big deal for him. And he also co-created Deathlock. So
Deathlock, like from Metalocalypse?
The robot guy, right?
Yes, the robot cyborg that is basically the RoboCop design was very heavily influenced by Frank Miller. Of course, would contribute to, I think, RoboCop 2. So it's an Ouroboros that feeds on itself. That the movie stole from Deathlock, and then the comics just stole right back.
Did Deathlock get his dick shot off like in that RoboCop movie?
No, he was the RoboCop. He wasn't
I'm sorry.
He wasn't one of the bad guys in this story who are basically RoboCop villains.
Okay.
RoboCop is the dick shooter, not the dick shootee.
I'm sorry. You're right. I got them mixed up. But yeah, no. Rich Buckler's style. It's very like dynamic, and it stands out for sure. Like so many of just random passerbys on the street like have these faces that are super memorable. There's these thugs in the first issue. All right. Let's get into this because I love some of this. We start with Peter Parker. Oh, actually, no. Even before that, sorry. We have to start with the death of Jean DeWolff.
We start with her being dead.
Yeah, we get a little bit of a recap of her life. Like, okay, her dad was a cop, then her stepdad was a cop, and then she became a cop. And then the cops find her dead in her home, which, I guess that's all we needed to know about her, that she was a cop and now she's dead, as far as the story is concerned. Like Vince was saying, I wanted to know more about her, and I'm a little disappointed to have not. I think at some point I would want to go back and see why she was so important, because it doesn't really, I guess we get some of that from Peter Parker, but not too much.
It's hard if you haven't read, if you've seen other comics from this era, she's not like a Stacy character where he's got this sort of grudging relationship where he's just like, well, I can't talk to her because she'll find out my secret identity, blah, blah, blah. Like, he has this like friendship with her, where she seems to be like the only police officer who seems to get along with Spider-Man. And then what's kind of cool is that there isn't any, it's just like a professional relationship where, they get along, and then he finds, again, just to jump ahead.
That's fine. Good. Go ahead. Jump ahead.
To jump ahead, 2 issues later when he's investigating her apartment, it's like, what? Like, she's got all these, like, pictures of me? Like, what does this mean? To find out that, like, she maybe thought of him as more than a friend, although it's not really clear, what she really thought of that.
I was a spider crush. She got a spider crush.
Yeah, it's like, what did she have these feelings? What's going on? But in her flashback, which is sort of presented as a like as she lays dying kind of thing, she's basically like her father kind of pushes her, never smiles, and she's like, he's saving this until I become the commissioner, but I know I'm gonna do it. So that's why I push myself so hard. That's why I don't let myself have friends. That's why I'm this way. It's all going to be worth it, like when I get there. And then she dies.
Yeah, rough stuff.
So it's a very like bittersweet moment that it's just like, she's thinking like, oh, it's all going to be worth it when I make commissioner at 40. And then she's dead.
Yeah. Too bad. So sad.
I did actually forget. I was like, oh yeah, look, Jean, she's moving up in the world, and I forgot. Like, oh yeah, that's what this book is called. I had already forgotten that was the title of the book. So I was like, oh yeah, that is sad.
Like into the main story now. Peter Parker is walking along the street, refers to himself as May Parker's nephew in like the first few captions, which I thought was weird.
That's how Petunia's nephew refers to himself that way too. So.
Okay, that's fine.
He is
different time. He is taking photos of a scantily clad woman on the street just randomly because he saw her and he was like, "This will be good for the paper." And instantly, I have the tone set for this comic that Peter Parker is an asshole. But no, he's really not. He's runs into an old man that he knows who's like living with Aunt May. What's that guy's name? Ernie?
Yeah, Ernie Popchick, a.k.a. Bernie Getz.
Oh, okay.
He's got a death wish.
Yeah, some street thugs beat him up. Boy, the design on these thugs. Boy, one of them like just looks like Blanca with his red hair like going up in the air like crazy. The design on these people. Wow.
The 80s was a great time for gang members.
You could draw
in terms of comic, yeah.
You could draw anything.
They all look like Bebop and Rocksteady. They all look like Warriors extras. They're all
all the time.
Yeah, they all. I mean, they have no like gang colors. They all don't match each other. They're in like greens and reds and yellows. They're just like, look, we're all just pals who hate old people and beat them up for sport because that's what we do in our violence gang.
Like later on in this run, there's another group of 3 other random thugs who go up to him and like try to mug him again. I'm like, what is like this guy is just a magnet for gang members. Like I don't know.
Everybody was terrified of the gangs in New York, the gangs of New York.
Yeah. Well, and notice that they were white guys, which I guess a good question mark.
Wait, this thing is simultaneously like this whole thing is sensational as well. Boy, I used the word sensational. I did not mean to. That was not meant to be a Spider-Man pun. But it's like it has a very sensational sense of like how it reacts to the media, while also trying to be progressive. But also, like, I don't know how it would have been reading this in the 80s, but right now it feels so regressive. Again, setting the tone with Spider-Man taking pictures of that woman on the street.
We should also mention the editor of this comic is black. So,
okay,
I mean, that's good. It's not like that this is just... I mean, Peter David is white, obviously. But it's not like there's no one... I mean, when the sort of Jesse Jackson character goes into J. Jonah Jameson's office... and is like, why do you care that these people are being murdered? And he's just like, are you a racist?
Well, and then we barely ever
very atypical. That seems super atypical for when I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, there's a lot more like black perspective than I was used to, that I am still used to in comics. And
I get that. The problem for me was that later on we don't get to see any more of this guy. We just hear everybody else complaining, like, "Oh, that Jesse Jackson guy is gonna raise the stink again. Oh, geez, now I gotta deal with it." I'm like, "Whoa, okay, calm down. Let's maybe let him get some good stuff in instead of just complaining about him."
I feel like the comic didn't do a very good job. I feel like he's supposed to be a red herring, but they do such a bad job of making him a red herring.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's not him.
He just looks like some smarmy asshole who's like trying to make a buck off of civil rights, and I'm just like, all right, I didn't like that.
Right, but the idea is there's a murderer calling himself the Sin Eater, who's like, I'm killing cops, I'm killing, these people who want to be part of the justice system. But there's also this like African American like civil rights leader who's like, the system is failing us, blah blah blah. And you're supposed to be like, oh, I wonder if they're the same. But it's like they're not. That would be a little.
Not for a single second ever even thought that might be where they were going with him. Especially because he doesn't even show up after the second issue or something. I feel like I forgot about him.
They show up in the 3rd issue at the funeral when Matt.
Okay.
When Matt.
Oh, you're right.
When Matt is like, he's here, he's at the funeral, and then you see both of you see him, and then you see the guy who is the Sin Eater. So it is still set up as a red herring, but it's like, no,
that's fair.
You know who it is.
We're just going all over the place here. These street thugs beat him up. Peter goes after these thugs, and they get arrested. And then he goes to visit the sergeant who is in charge of looking for Jean DeWolff. It is Sergeant Stan Carter, who is like the biggest asshole of a cop I've ever seen. Like literally every word out of his mouth is sarcasm. This guy sucks. Vince, were you going to say something?
I'm actually talking. I was going to talk about his scene in the next book.
Go ahead.
Stan Carter, like the way he's drawn in the 2nd issue, I thought he was a Nick Fury life model decoy, like the whole time.
He does look like him.
He looks in the second issue 108. He's drawn. He's got the same hair. He's got the same silver temples as Nick Fury. He talks about how he used to be in Shield, and his left eye.
He shows a picture of Nick Fury as well, which looks just like him.
Yeah, exactly. And then when he squints, you're like, "Is something wrong with your eye, there, buddy?"
Yeah, because like for the entire second issue, like his left eye is always in shadow, just like Nick Fury's eye patch. And I'm like, okay, so who's this Nick Fury guy? He's a life model decoy, right? So like I got so thrown off by that I did not even think about him like as a potential suspect for the rest of the.
Same here.
I was like, well, it's not Nick Fury, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was gonna be the big reveal. Like actually, I was Nick Fury. This guy's like, yeah, we all fucking knew.
But he's like, oh yeah, Jean DeWolff spoke very highly of you, so I'll talk to you, Spider-Man. We can be friends. And then we meet Daredevil, who's also in this book, because Matt Murdock is representing those 3 hoodlums that tried to beat up the old guy.
Oh, I can't believe it. How could you defend those criminals, Matt?
Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, because I believe in the justice system. I have to. But right afterwards, the Sin Eater shows up, tries to kill Matt Murdock.
Which, and the Mr. Popcheck is like, oh, can you believe it? He got those guys off. He got them bail. It's like, dude, they're still gonna go to trial.
Calm down, old man.
Like, it's not over.
Yeah.
Like, he literally just got them bail. That doesn't mean anything.
It's okay. That guy's old. He doesn't understand what's going on. It's not his fault. But this Sin Eater guy, who is our main villain, tries to kill him. Of course,
I'm just saying, Mr. Popcheck needs to understand that a bail system that doesn't allow people out of jail is a bail system that forces guilty pleas on people that can't afford bail. So that even if you're innocent, if you're held in jail for 30 days, you'll plead guilty to anything. So Spider-Man needs to be out there talking about bail reform instead of fighting crime. That's what I'm saying.
Bail reform?
Before we started recording, Chris was like, I do not want to bring politics into our next episode.
And now we're at bail reform.
I also totally agree with Chris.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of reform that needs to happen, and it has to start with Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare these presumed innocent people not be stuck in jail until their court case?
Yeah. Mr. Popchuck is like, oh, do you think Judge Rosenthal is a Nazi sympathizer?
Oh, yeah, because it's like, that old guy, he's like, yeah, I fought in the war. I took a bullet from a Nazi. What is this judge, a Nazi sympathizer? That did make me laugh. I like that line. It sounds exactly like old people. Sin Eater trying to kill Daredevil, but not really Daredevil, just Matt Murdock. But of course, Matt Murdock can jump out of the way. But then that old judge, this judge walks in. Yeah, we should mention that this is a black judge, because that kind of, is a little bit important with the Jesse Jackson character, who was like, oh, black guy's dead. Nothing ever, again, really comes of it. Now I feel like an asshole for just bringing it up.
No, Judge Rosenthal's white.
Yeah, he's white.
Wait, what? Am I incorrect? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the priest.
The priest is black.
I'm sorry. Judge
Rosenthal is Jewish.
Yes.
No, he's a Nazi sympathizer.
No, he's not. But he gets, murdered by Sin Eater in place of Matt Murdock. And then our next issue starts just like the first one, with a recap of the person who has just died.
Which is it's good symmetry. The first issue begins and ends with a murder, so it sets it up well. And it also ends with Matt Murdock. He sees, basically Sin Eater spins the shotgun around, and he has the opportunity to do something, but he's dressed as Matt Murdock, and he knows the judge, so he's like, oh shit! Like if I make a acrobatic leap at this guy, the judge is going to be like, what the hell? So instead he hesitates for a second, and this judge gets blasted.
Yeah. And also in the whole beginning of the next issue, Spider-Man is fighting the Sin Eater guy on the street, and Daredevil can't help because he is finding a safe place to change. And so he's
funny.
Yeah.
I do want to take a step back. I really do like the intro, though, of issue 2, issue 108. How it does a good job of showing and not telling that Matt had a relationship with this judge. Because it's kind of like a little flashback scene between both of them when Matt was, I think, in law school still.
Right.
Which I don't think is really like mentioned, maybe in a line in the previous issue. But this, like, it's a real good way to say, like, oh, they had a relationship. And, like, he meant something to Matt. For this previously unmentioned judge. I think it works.
I get it, but at the same time, like, I was reading a Spider-Man comic about Jean DeWolff, and now I'm learning about how this judge was important to Daredevil.
Well, half of this book, I did, like, multiple times forget I was reading a Spider-Man book because Daredevil takes this book over multiple times, which is fine. I'm totally fine with that.
It is fine. It is fine. It just, like, I felt like I wanted it to be a little focused, but that's okay.
But I do like, I think in both of the intros of both of these issues do a really good economy of, like, getting you the character's entire deal.
Those were my favorite parts, the recaps that were at the beginning of these 2 issues, because they were, like, succinct and engaging, and I was, like, actually genuinely interested in these characters, and I think those were my favorite parts.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is 1985, and I am not a fan. I think I've gone on the record before about how I'm not a fan of just, like, the post, like, 1988 comics where it's just like, bah, 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 like, characters are getting shot, where it's just, like, murder everywhere. But, like, so this is 1985. It's a big deal, you know? Like, that 2 characters have died in 2 issues. The comic is like, this is a big deal. And so...
Yeah, maybe I'm jaded by it at this point. So I do have to put myself in that time, because you're right. It is a big deal.
Yeah. And so even Spider-Man is just like, shit, like, this sucks, you know? And so, like, he's calling the officer and just like, I don't know what to do. Like, people are dying, like, left and right.
Yeah, and I think my problem with the story is like knowing, like, so many serial killer stories and so many, like, killing spree shows of, like, CSIs and Criminal Minds and everything on CBS, and how everybody dies every act break. Because I remember watching Silence of the Lambs for the first time, probably about, like, 10 years ago, and I'm like, this one Best Picture? This is just, like, a long, good episode of CSI. Like, that's all this is. Which is, like, unfair to Silence of the Lambs because it's, like, you know, 91. And Manhunter's also a really good movie that's also got the CSI guy and Hannibal Lecter. But reading this, like, I forgetting that it's 85, and I'm like, this is just like Seven, the movie. Like, he's murdering people who are, like, say they're good people, but he's kind of
sinners.
It felt very. I said derivative, and then Chris texted me, like, derivative of things that came 10 years after it, and I go, fair point.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like I'm reading this, and the news is like, oh, there's a serial killer on the loose, and everybody's so scared that we have to stay inside. And I'm also thinking, like, wait a minute, don't you live in a world with, like, the Green Goblin, and now you have to stay inside because some guy is shooting people? And again, I'm just too used to our own world where people are getting shot like crazy.
Yeah, right. But
where I would be scared more by the Green Goblin. That's when I would stop going outside.
Right, but it's like you have to think about it in the context of, you know, the Green Goblin's not out there in, you know, 60s and 70s comics, like, murdering people, you know.
He's just, like, fighting Spider-Man.
Yeah, like, he's robbing banks and committing crimes, but he's not, like, shooting people, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really his MO. Like, that's, you know, yeah, maybe, like, the Kingpin guys might do that, but that's not really what, you know, super criminals do. They're kind of doing kind of more theatrical type crimes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's kind of a different, you know, the fact of kind of bringing it down to earth is not what superhero comics were doing. So it is kind of a different mindset that I think is a little different than 85 Spider-Man comics were doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, hold on, Vince. What is that sound?
That's a coughing baby. She's getting over the RSVs,
which
is a very bad disease for little ones. Get them checked out. If your child is dehydrated or has blue fingers, they may have RSV, which can lead to pneumonia.
Blue fingers?
Yeah, because of poor circulation.
I see.
Yeah, those are a fever. It's not good. Take your child, if they're under 3 months and they have any type of cough, you should take them to the doctor. That's your PSA for.
Boy, our show is doing some real good for the world, I think.
Yeah. So
thanks.
bail reform and take your baby to the doctor.
Yeah.
Those are your things to work on this episode.
Yeah, we'll try and give you at least 3 more by the end of this episode.
so Medicare for all if you can't afford health care because it's not good from your employer and your baby needs to go to the doctor.
Yep. Spider-Man fights the Sin Eater, and it's a good. I think to me, it's a good clue that Spider-Man isn't immediately able to kick the Sin Eater's ass. Like he beats him up, but he's like, "Oh, I'm distracted." But like Sin Eater's tough. Like
he is tough.
I'm not able to immediately destroy this guy.
Mm-hmm. He is kind of more worried about Aunt May, who's like around there with him. But a lot of this issue is like a lot of fighting. And then these funerals happen. Oh wait, no, he goes to. He sees that on Sin Eater he's got Jean DeWolff's badge. He's got the judge's gavel, and the Sin Eater's like, "Yeah, I killed Jean DeWolff," and then he runs away. And so Spider-Man, of course, goes to Sergeant Carter, and he says, "Hey, I figured out who did the murders. It's the Sin Eater guy." And of course, this guy's an asshole. This is the part that really bothered me. After they're talking for a little bit and like blah, 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 the sergeant says, "All right, now get to the point of your visit." I'm like, well, he showed up to tell you who the bad guy is. Like, isn't that the point of his visit? But no, Spider-Man's also saying, like, "Hey, I want to help investigate." And basically tells him, like, "Yeah, all right, as long as you don't tell me exactly what you're doing, just go do your thing." Which is fine. It just made me mad. I don't like this Carter guy. Boy, I hate him. But he's doing his investigating, sees, like, Jean DeWolff's apartment, all those pictures of him. Reverend Jackson Tolliver, that's the Jesse Jackson character. He's at those funerals. Again, I guess meant to be a red herring, but just feels kind of unimportant.
Right. And then Matt Murdock goes to the judge's funeral, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I'm getting..."
Oh, and these two funerals are, like, across the street from each other.
Yeah.
At the same time. Good stuff. Good stuff. And yeah, he says, "Oh, something's happening, but I can't just yell that the murderer is here. Nobody would believe me." Except he does yell that the murderer is here after everyone's like leaving. He says, "Oh, damn, I waited too long," which was the goofiest moment of this book for me, where he's just standing there yelling at a car as it drives away, as though he didn't like. Oh boy.
Yeah, I wasn't clear what Daredevil's intention was there.
It was so awkward. Just this blind man standing there on the street, like, "Wait a minute, there's a oh well." And then the Sin Eater is in a confession booth, and he kills the Reverend Bernard Finn. That's the Black Reverend that I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Which
and again, so that's the bookend for issue 2. So issue 1 it ends with murdering a judge. Issue 2 ends with murdering a Reverend. So not going good.
Also worth noting that in the fight on the street, another bystander gets killed by just some random fire as well. That Spider-Man kind of thinks it's his fault because he dodges out of the way, and somebody gets hit by the bullet.
Yeah.
But somebody made him feel better. It was like it's Sergeant Carter. It's like, "Oh no, the type of weapon he was using was like a spray kind of thing. It would have hit him and you if you hadn't gotten out of the way. So you're all right."
Which is just like Daredevil's issue in the previous issue. I could have stopped this, but I didn't.
Still murder, but a lesser murder because he wasn't intending to shoot that guy.
Right. An accidental murder, so that one's okay. So technically just 3 murders and 1 accident.
I'm just saying, I don't think you can get the death penalty. Well, maybe in the mid-'80s you could. I don't know when they got rid of that. But
I don't know.
But the most you could get for that one guy that he didn't mean to kill would probably be 30 years. But all the others are like, those are all lives.
Mm-hmm. So this next issue I feel was definitely a lot of filler. There was a bit that I really loved,
all
which
killer,
I guess
no filler.
Yeah.
I was gonna say until the end. The end is
until the
great.
end. But in the middle there is I guess it's kind of setting up for like the next story. But there is a guy who's going around robbing houses dressed as Santa,
Yeah.
And like ask the kids to let them in, like, hey, it's Santa. I know I'm early, but I need to make you a deal. I need to take the little TV you have now so that I can bring you a big TV later. And
Yeah.
I love that idea. I am stealing it. I'm going to start dressing as Santa so that I can take everybody's TVs. This is a great plan, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I do love, if you listen on the news broadcast, you know, there I've listened, you know, I haven't listened, I've read other comic book writers complain about using news broadcasts as plot delivery systems. Like, don't do this, it's bad. But this issue is like the perfect way to do this.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, like they tell you about the Sin Eater. It's like, well, obviously. But they also tell you that a minor criminal got out of jail on a technicality. And they also tell you that a string of burglaries has been going on. And so they set up two minor unrelated crime stories as like, here's our main crime story and here's two minor crime stories. So it sets up your main plot of the Sin Eater, and then it sets up two minor subplots. One, you know, which is obviously going to pay off later, the Santa plot, which they seed here, and that we'll see. Obviously, in some other issue, Spider-Man will have to deal with the Santa guy.
Mm-hmm.
But then in this issue, it's basically a bunch of like following leads. Daredevil and Spider-Man are like investigating.
No, he's not following Ned Leeds. Ned Leeds is out of town in this issue.
That is correct, but
sorry, that was a bad pun. I had to make it. Ned Leeds and J. Jonah Jameson are out of town on business. That's all.
Yes. Betty Brant's wife, Betty Brant's husband, rather.
Also, possibly Green Goblin.
Yeah, Hobgoblin.
But that we decided was not true, right?
It's really Roderick Kingsley who hooked Ned Leeds up with...
No, we're not getting into that. We're keeping on going. Spider-Man goes to Kingpin for another weird filler scene.
Yes,
where
he
he says, Kingpin, give me information on the Sin Eater. And Kingpin says, I don't know. And Daredevil was just here too, and I told him I don't know. And then we see Daredevil going to a bar.
There's a cute inside joke where Peter David name drops his former boss at Marvel Direct Marketing, where he's like, I've decided not to hire you as my new assassin.
I see. I was wondering if that name was somebody familiar. Okay.
Yeah, the character that we've never seen before, where he says, no, I will not hire you. That's his Peter David's former boss.
That's pretty funny. We see Matt Murdock go to a bar with a bunch of seedy individuals trying to get information. And look, boy, for Matt Murdock, who's trying really hard to protect his secret identity, just walking into a bar as a blind guy, starting a bar fight, doing such a good job that everybody gets scared of him, it doesn't really seem
He doesn't walk in as a blind guy. He walks in as a cool guy with sunglasses.
Oh, I see. That's what
because he has a name, doesn't he? Is he like Joe or Jim or something?
Yeah, Joe Schmo.
Yeah, Joe Camel, the coolest guy I know.
Yeah, he should have gone in as his brother Mike Murdock, the cool brother.
But yeah, he's like got a guy he's about to throw him, and the bartender's like, no, not my window. And so he said, okay, and he throws him onto a table instead.
Yeah, I think that might have been the namesake Josie of Josie's Bar.
I see. But then right after that, Spider-Man just busts into the window like some kind of a fucking asshole. Like, this, you don't even know that there is any connection from this bar and the people who hang out there to this Sin Eater guy. You're just like grasping at straws here. And so what is the first thing you do? You break this window? Man,
does he even know? He doesn't know that Matt Murdock is Spider-Man or Daredevil, does he?
It doesn't matter.
No.
And he wasn't following him either.
He just busts into this window.
I do love that it shows like what the outside world thinks of superheroes at this point in time. That it's just like, oh yeah, I've seen him like this once before. He's gonna be like this until he figures something out. He's gonna be on a rampage.
Well, and then Spider-Man is an asshole to this other guy. He goes to this dad who is like admittedly a bit of a criminal, but he essentially kidnaps him in front of his daughter,
So
and says,
this was the other news, was that this guy got out on a technicality. Yeah. So Spider-Man's like, aha,
I'm gonna go drag this guy through through fucking hell. I'm gonna take him to like this seedy joint. I'm just gonna be a jerk to him and force him to give up this Sin Eater guy again. Not actually having any evidence to tie these two people together, or like, it really made me mad. I don't know what Spider-Man is doing in this issue because it's nothing. It's terrible.
I think it's good because, this shows Spider-Man is not a cop, Like, Spider-Man doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
He's worse than a cop. He hangs out with cops, and then he goes around just beating people up. No, breaking windows. Breaking up families. I'm not into it.
Like, Spider-Man is basically, like, he's like, look, somebody killed my friend. I really, really, really want to catch them. I don't know how to. All I know how to do is to just like burst into low-life bars and just start punching people. That's how I know to find things. Okay. I have a spider sense that helps me, but I'm not a detective. I'm not Batman. So he's not like a police officer. He doesn't have like a network of informants like Batman. He doesn't have like a way to do this.
But that's not all right. Whatever. Let's keep going.
I think you're supposed to be like, "Whoa, Spider-Man! Like, what are you doing?"
All right. Okay. All right. That's fair. That's fair.
Because that's the whole thing. Like Daredevil's like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So the Sin Eater shows up at the Daily Bugle and says, "I'm here to kill J. Jonah Jameson. Like, he's the next one that I have to kill." And there's a nice moment where Robbie Robertson, is that his name? Mm-hmm. Pretends to be J. Jonah Jameson. And this guy's just confused and he's like, what? And so Spider-Man is able to like throw something at him to knock him out. And he's like, well, that was way Peter, too easy. Yeah, as Peter. I said, well, that was too easy. And, he's at the precinct and Daredevil shows up and says, hey, I just want to hang out. Where's the perp? And what are you, blind? This guy's right in front of you. And Daredevil has this moment where he's like, I know that's not him because I can tell the heartbeats apart. But how do I tell Spider-Man that I know it's not really him? And, like, I don't know. Just tell him you have super hearing. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah, like, Spider-Man has superpowers. Why can't you just be like, I also have some superpowers?
Yes, dude. I'm also a superhero, and I have superpowers, and I can tell you that this guy is not the guy. But Spider-Man is like, okay, I need proof. And so they go to this guy's apartment, and yeah, there's some evidence there, but it turns out this guy lives right next door to Sergeant Stan Carter, and this guy's crazy, and so he's been hearing Sergeant Stan Carter overhear his plans because, oh my god, Sergeant Stan Carter is Sin Eater! Oh no! It was the cop the whole time! This is terrible. I still don't quite understand exactly how this guy got a costume and believed that he also had to dress up as Sin Eater and also had to kill people. That felt a little weak to me.
Maybe Stan was talking to himself saying those things. Like, I've got to put this costume on so I can eat the sins of and put the lotion on the skin. I don't know.
I don't know.
That guy had a history of mental illness, so he heard voices, literally heard voices from the recordings.
Sure.
And he's just like, okay, I guess.
How'd he get a replica of the same costume?
Because he stole it from Stan Carter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In terms of implausibility of like a red herring extra killer, this one works for me.
Okay.
In terms of like, oh well, he heard voices of the real killer through his walls and misinterpreted them as voices telling him to kill, so he also killed.
Yeah, I mean, if he's literally a schizophrenic, if you're just hearing one more voice, like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I mean, in terms of plotting, I don't really like it because they actually do like follow this guy multiple times throughout the story. So I just assumed it was a story where we knew who the killer was from the beginning.
Right, and it was just some nameless character,
and not a whodunit.
Like structurally, I did not like the plotting there. You're right.
Because I was like, oh yeah, because it's like Silence of the Lambs or Red Dragon. You're like, okay, well, we know this guy from the beginning. Cool. And that
I felt like it was always a mystery of who it was.
Oh, I didn't. I thought it was like, the second we saw that dude go talk to the priest, I'm like, this is the killer. He's going to confess to killing or doing something.
Yeah. Which I guess is the sign of a great red herring, so that one worked. Which is also, well, it's also why none of the other red herrings, like, mattered. I was just looking for this guy with the glasses in the audience, and I was like, oh, well, we didn't see everybody's face. I'm sure he's there. I didn't bother to actually think about who we did see, because, again, it didn't matter. We already know who the killer is. But,
yeah, I think
again,
that's what
don't try to put other red herrings in a story where you already have one incredibly strong red herring, because it doesn't work, right?
I mean, I don't know. I guess I disagree. I think it works pretty well. It fooled you guys.
Well, no, but I'm saying like the other red herrings that they tried to throw out, like the Jesse Jackson character, and
this Peter David's going nowhere.
Oof, yeah. So the real Sin Eater, the sergeant, he's going off to kill Betty Brand. Again, I don't know why he's picking these targets and how he's determining that these are the sinners he has to go after, but whatever. He goes to kill Betty Brand.
No, he goes to kill J. Jonah Jameson.
He wants Jameson, yeah.
Oh, that's right. But Betty Brand is there because she's hanging out while the two husbands are out of town. The two wives are going to hang out together.
Yeah, they're Brokeback Mountaining it. You know?
Yeah.
They're going off on their ranch trip or whatever. They're going on their fishing trip. Why can't I quit you? I'm assuming that's what Ned and Jameson are doing.
It said they're at a distributors meeting. I don't know. J. Jonah Jameson was not happy with it. It was a waste of time. And I think they lost a network. But that's okay. Sin Eater, like, I don't know what's going on here. Kind of misses his shot when he's trying to. And he's like,
that's such a good panel. So, we mentioned, the first issue, Matt Murdock hesitates, the judge gets shot. Second issue, the Reverend, he's confessing, the Reverend gets shot. Third issue, Peter is like, oh shit, I know where he's going. He's going to go to Jameson's house. Betty's there, shit, and is calling the house. And Betty's answering, and then you see the shotgun blast through Jameson's chair. And, normally stuff like this wouldn't, really get to me. Like, I mentioned in a previous episode that I've read a bunch of Batman comics. And so, like, I read an issue where a character called the Film Freak was trying to kill Alfred's daughter. But I didn't really think he was going to do it because it's like, well, he's named the Film Freak. And so even though Alfred's daughter is not an important character, I don't think he's going to murder someone. But it's like, yeah, the first two issues ended with someone getting murdered in just the same way.
It's true.
Sure, yeah. And so I did kind of think she might die here.
I mean, I know she's going to date Flash Thompson, Venom. She sure knows how to pick
later.
him.
So yeah.
So yeah, this fourth issue does begin. I do like this beginning because it does remind you of the first, the first issue with Jean DeWolff and the second issue with the Judge.
Yeah, you get a little recap of Spider-Man's relationship with Betty. But that does make me think, like, okay, if you're going to have these parallels in issues 1, 2, and 4, what happened in issue 3? Why didn't we get a recap of? All right, whatever.
Yeah, we didn't get a funeral for that.
For the Reverend. Well, that guy's black. He doesn't get a recap. Sorry.
that is kind of sad. But yes, we didn't. But yeah, so we get Betty's flashbacks to, like, Peter being like, this was the first crush I ever had, and we dated, but we fell apart because I couldn't tell her I was Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I stopped caring at this point, honestly. I was like, oh, okay, so it's this guy, and yeah, he didn't kill Betty. Okay, great. Spider-Man shows up. Oh, Betty does stab him in the leg, and he yells, "You slut."
Yeah, that was shocking to me.
I was just out. I was done with this book at this point. Spider-Man shows up, and he's, like, really mad at Sin Eater, like, to the point, like, I'm gonna kill him, and Daredevil comes in to stop him. And they start, like, they have almost like a 10-page fight of going back and forth, like, you can't kill him, the law. And he says, but that guy killed my friend. But the law. But he killed. But the law. And I'm just, but where is he? This guy's going to get away. Thankfully, he does not. The other cops get to him. And then the rest of this issue turns into, like, oh boy, you can't trust any cops, and the police are, like, rioting, and they're like, I bet these cops are going to try and protect that cop, that bad cop. And this issue starts being about simultaneously everything and nothing at the same time.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it kept on going and going and going. Chris, tell me why I'm wrong. I know you loved it. Keep going. Tell me.
I don't love this issue. I feel like this issue misses the mark a little bit. I don't know. It's the weakest issue of the 4. The pacing's a little off. And the fighting is not as good as it could be as far as that fight between Peter and Daredevil. The fact that Daredevil wins outright is stupid to me. Come on now. But I think, Peter David and Christopher Priest have talked about it. What they really wanted to do, first, what they wanted to do was they wanted to do something instead of Gwen Stacy or something like that, where a character death as the climax of a story. They wanted to do it as, something that they felt would be more like real life, of just be an unfair cheat. And to just do it in the beginning in a way that was not dramatic, and to just be unfair like this. And then what they wanted to do was to just have. They felt like it was unrealistic that characters in a fight were just able to basically just calm down so quickly. And so, they felt like, Peter David's idea was that by doing that, by not giving him any sort of catharsis over the fact that, even with Gwen Stacy, he had the fact that, he's able to mourn, the fact that his girlfriend just died. But the fact that, Jean DeWolff, he just feels cheated from even getting a real fight with Senior. He just is knocked out so quickly. And he's just hitting an unconscious guy. And so basically the idea is that he still has all this adrenaline, and that, the idea is what do you do with all of it? And, the idea was, I don't think it didn't come through as well as it could have, but, that Daredevil was there to help him, hey, don't kill this guy, that's what you're going to do. And
that's fair. Yeah, I get that. I didn't feel that rage from Peter throughout, especially when he's kind of joking around with this guy that he had kidnapped, and Yeah, and I think that comes out a little bit when he's just when he says that gun is a part of me, and he's like, oh really, what part? Your neck? And then snaps the gun. It's you can tell Peter's pretty pissed off. Sure, it didn't feel like it built properly for me. It was just I don't know. There was something in maybe it was the plotting. It just didn't feel like it had a nice build at all. And again, I was just thrown by some of the elements that I felt were kind of sexist and racist. The whole thing from the beginning with her starting out dead reminded me of the women in refrigerators thing that was that Gail Simone who talks a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
And how a character who was apparently very beloved that I was interested in kind of learning about in this just kind of died to what feels like a throwaway villain for not a lot of payoff. The whole thing rubbed me the wrong way from the very start. And so this book had a real tough uphill battle to win me over, and it just didn't. It really didn't.
I mean, that's fair. I understand that. But, I mean, the thing is, Jean DeWolff, I like that character, and I wish more had been done with her. But, I think this is the best story that's told, about her. This is,
I don't know. I mean, I haven't read any others, so I can't say.
This is, like I said, and this is the anti sort of Gwen Stacy. This is not a love interest. This is not a character that was ever, what I liked best about her, was that they sort of hinted oh, she might like Spider-Man. That's about as far as it went. Was that she might have a thought bubble that she might kind of have a crush on him, but that she never, first of all, I don't think she knew how young he was, because she was probably 15 years older than him. But and so when he's oh, we could have, it's don't be weird, Spider-Man. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this issue works that well. But I do think, I really like this storyline a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
now there is some other important stuff that happens in this issue that we should mention. After some police are rioting, some civilians are rioting against the police because they don't want this Sin Eater guy to be transferred to Rikers Island, I guess. I don't know. And this mob is attacking the cops, and Daredevil tries to help out, but he's getting kind of overwhelmed, and so finally Spider-Man decides to help. And Daredevil's like, hey, buddy, you're not so bad. And then they trade secret identities. I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty good. That's neat. I guess that's a pretty important milestone because these two do have a fairly important kind of, two guys on the street who are less connected to the Avengers and everything. They're the more street-level heroes, and they do have a nice relationship from this point on. Worth mentioning. Oh, and then Ernie, the old man, gets mugged again on the train, but now he's got a gun because he's going to protect himself, and he shoots them.
Yep.
Oh, boy.
And Aunt May calls Peter and is just like, he's in all kinds of legal trouble. Mm-hmm. And then Matt's just like, well, I can't help but hear this, but don't worry, the legal system will help him. Yeah.
It had a very, two buddies freeze frame over the credits kind of feel with this. Yeah. So overall, I found this thing to be pretty... Boy, I wish I could say forgettable, but I might have a hard time forgetting some of this stuff. And there were some great moments in here, but yeah.
I really have to wonder about racist, too. I don't understand where you even say racist.
I picked up some dog whistle kind of terms, just the way that the news talked and a few of the characters talked. I definitely picked up a little bit of it
was the way they reacted to the Jesse Jackson character was it for me, where he was treated more like a villain than when he was off panel, they always spoke badly about him.
Yeah,
and
the Sin Eater definitely does.
Sure, but we also don't know that he's the Sin Eater, and also we have J. Jonah Jameson, who's also
a great character.
Yeah,
he does. J. Jonah Jameson doesn't understand racism because he does accuse him of being a racist because he doesn't think that J. Jonah Jameson cares.
Oh, that's right. That's
there isn't such a thing as reverse racism, Jonah. Sorry.
Oh boy. That was that was pretty rough. Let's get. I'm done with this thing. Vince, I think you said from the beginning you were a little so-so on this, but you got anything to say?
I mean, I think Chris has kind of won me over. I think in terms of it's kind of storytelling that has the same kind of beats where it starts and ends every issue the same way. I really like that. The things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way is I wasn't really invested in the murder mystery, and I didn't like the whole Death Wish homage. Parody that I picked. I mean, Charles Bronson is in the second issue.
Oh yeah, as a random bystander.
Yeah, he's his
face. Yeah,
looking in a newspaper that says the vigilante strikes again.
Yeah, and so that whole, Death Wish. I think y'all covered Death Wish 3 or 4 on your podcast.
3.
Yeah, on your Stupid Minds podcast. Yeah, and it's the kind of 80s racism that pervades Bronson movie, the Death Wish movies. I think that just kind of pervaded this story to me.
This isn't nearly as racist as a Death Wish movie.
Death Wish is a special type of movie. I know that. I do know that. But which was weird because I'm there's some oddly progressive stuff in here, but then why are we idolizing Death Wish here? I was very confused.
I don't know that it's idolizing it because the Aunt May's friend is not. He's not a hero in this story, and because you look at Bernie Getz is the vigilante more or less. He looked at himself that way anyway, and so to make him a 75-year-old kind of crazy person who's just shooting teens who are potentially going to mug him and doesn't even kill them. That's sort of I don't know, that's taking something out of that Death Wish story, I think.
I haven't seen Death Wish, so I don't know anything about Death Wish or any of the homage or whatever. It's just if show people doing bad things, whether like you might explicitly after the fact say, "Oh, also that was bad," but when the characters around them aren't saying anything about it, that's a problem for me.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, but I'm just saying. I mean, like in real life, Bernie Getz shot and seriously injured those kids on the subway because he watched those Death Wish movies and he thought that that they were gonna mug him, and he was kind of seen as like this heroic figure, but in this comic he is not. The character is not seen as a hero for doing what he did. He's seen as kind of a tragic, like, weirdo for shooting those kids. And so, like, I don't think there's...
No, I think this comic presents him as being in the right because he was attacked earlier. And so it's like, oh, everyone should now carry guns because we got to make sure we're not going to get attacked. I think we need to get off this.
But I don't think I don't think it's making him a hero, though. I think he's a tragic. I don't know.
I don't really want to talk about guns anymore, so I think we should just move on.
I just can't imagine anyone reading that comic being like, I want to be like that guy.
Oh, that's what baffled me. I'm sorry, we're continuing on this. Yeah, that's what baffled me about why people like love Charles Bronson in Death Wish. I'm like, this guy's a fucking maniac. And then they made another one in 2018, and I'm like, this was incredibly tone deaf. But okay.
Well, at least no one saw that one.
I know. But hey, so let's move off of talk about guns and move on to Marvel Secret Guns. Issue 6.
Jesus. All right, Secret Wars number 6. The Wasp. Oh boy, more sexism. Great. The Wasp just escaped from Magneto.
People break their nails. People break their nails all the time, and some people are bad drivers, and some people only. Boy. Jesus.
Yeah. This was rough at the beginning.
Jim Shooter knows how women talk. I think he nailed it.
Oh no.
Wow.
Anyways, we're gonna skip over all that. She crash lands in the swamp, and the lizard is there. Okay. They kind of make friends a little bit later.
Been here the whole time?
I guess so. Was he in the first issue? There was like a note that he had been there at the beginning. I don't really remember seeing him, and that I don't know. But apparently he's just been there the whole time.
I guess they made an action figure of him, and then like Dr. Doom was like, I don't need that guy.
Yeah, get out of here. But Dr. Doom does need Claw. He reforms him for some reason. If you remember from what issues were we reading where he got reformed from an illegally downloaded MP3 of himself?
Oh,
do you remember
that was Dwayne McDuffie's Fantastic Four.
Yes. So in these issues, he explains that he had been absorbed by Dazzler at some point and released into Galactus or something, and then his sound particles like in the ship. I don't know.
So that MP4 thing was actually the second most humiliating defeat he'd ever suffered.
Yeah. Poor guy. But now he's back, and he's like Dr. Doom's lackey. He's speaking in like rhymes and repeats himself, like, "Oh, you want to put a fly in Galactus' soup?" Boop 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 boop. And I thought it was kind of adorable.
He's basically like some sort of computer thing or something. Like his brain has been broken.
Yeah, it's messed up. But he's happy with what he is. He's just made of pure sound energy. And he becomes Dr. Doom's messenger to go like tell the other villains what to do. They don't want to, buy into it at first, but he gives Ultron the secret code word. And so Ultron like helps him.
Ultron's a robot, so he's loyal.
Yeah, no matter what. Professor X is reading some minds. I can't read all of them because Enchantress is like, hey, get out of our heads. But he gets enough. And he orders the X-Men to go do something. I don't remember what exactly. It's like reconnaissance on the villains or something like that.
Yeah, sends 3 of them to go spy. And Storm is like, hey, wait a second.
I've had enough. She's a leader. That's what she says. I'm the leader. All of a sudden, she's been taking orders from them all the time. Why is it just now that she's had enough? What's going on here?
Yeah, this is issue 6 of 12, Storm.
Yeah, you could have said no from the first issue when they were telling you what to do. But no, in this issue, she says, I've had enough. I'm out of here. So she does not join them. Instead, it's Rogue, Wolverine and Cyclops, and they go do some reconnaissance. Meanwhile, Colossus is dreaming about Kitty, but he's fallen in love with that alien lady. What's her name? Like Zaji? Zaj? Something like that? Mm. It's alien, so you can say it however. We don't know how they pronounce things.
Her name is Moira. That's how I'm pronouncing it.
I don't think that is correct at all, but that's okay. You could pronounce it Moira. Human Torch is also in love with Moira, and Colossus is getting a little jealous because they're like flying in the air and they're doing their thing. So Cyclops and Wolverine and Rogue catch up to the villains. They have a bit of a fight for a little while. They wound the Molecule Man, who is like very important to Dr. Doom's plans, even though he's such a...
Yeah, what? Wolverine is ready to straight up murder the Molecule Man.
Yeah, and Cyclops like stops him, of course, like killing is bad, all that sort of stuff. Rogue is also kind of new to the X-Men. She's like, I don't know if I want to join with these guys. Like, there's fighting, I might get hurt. She just like kind of hangs back and does nothing. The villains end up retreating because Molecule Man is so important and they need to keep him alive. And they find this like volcano there, and I don't know. They assumed that Dr. Doom was going to do something with this volcano, so Cyclops says, you know what, I'm just going to blast it. And so he blasts the volcano, and it starts going off. He's like, oh, all right, we got to get out of here, which was very, very unusual to me. I don't know why Cyclops decided he should blast this volcano, but he did, and now it's going off. Meanwhile, the Wasp and the Lizard have made friends. The Wrecking Crew shows up and they zap her, and Lizard's like, you zapped a woman, but then they kidnap both of them. Was that it? Did something else happen? I feel like I missed something. What happened at the end here?
The heroes were like planning their next move, but they didn't do anything. Galactus was going to do something, but he didn't do anything. I think that's about it.
Yeah, like I was really into this book at the beginning, and I had read this before. I just don't remember any of this because a lot happens, but it just starts to feel a little like too much now, where I don't know what any of it's leading to. I don't know.
Yeah, this is really a filler issue.
It felt like a couple filler issues in a row, though. Like we had the mountain issue, and that was awesome. We were crushing our mountain, and then I checked out of issue 5. Like I just was like, I don't care what's going on here.
Yeah,
this one's was a little better than I think issue 5, better. But I didn't like it that much.
Yeah, it's like it's okay. At least I think I really did like the Wasp and the Lizard forming a friendship. That was like a cool moment. But overall, mostly just like, oh, now heroes. We see some villains. We're going to fight again. And retreat. Okay.
Yeah.
This volcano blasting thing is interesting. Oh, I guess, Dr. Doom's plan is to get Galactus to kill the humans by drawing his attention to them, maybe? I don't know. Galactus is so big and powerful that when you do too much stuff with him, I'm just like, Dr. Doom, how are you going to try and predict what Galactus is going to do? Come on. But I guess he's trying.
Yeah, can we read my favorite line from this issue?
I don't know. Can we?
Go for it.
I see. This is Wasp to Lizard. Well, I heard you were vicious and cruel, but I believe in judging people and lizards on their behavior, not on their reputation. And Wasp is crazy. Amazing. He interrupts her when she's talking about people and lizards on the strength of their character. I love it.
Yeah. I do love, and it's more Roger Stern than Shooter is just doing a bad Roger Stern. I do love the 80s Wasp of that she just as a front does this, of the pretends to be a moron. I do like that version of the Wasp. I do find that character charming.
I like that she is about to call him a gentle reptile.
Yes. That was cute as well.
It's a lot of cute moments with the lizard. But yeah, end of this issue, there is a character lurking in the shadows. Dudes in shadows? No, Dudette in shadows. Yeah, we haven't had a Dudette in the shadows yet, have we?
Whoa.
I do remember liking Secret Wars a lot more than this, so it's probably just like a little bit of slump in the middle. At least I hope so. Still, plot is moving forward a little slower than it was before. So we'll see what happens. Claw is here now for no reason. Lizard's here now for no reason. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of the natural. I don't know. I feel like it's weird to say because a 12-issue series was kind of a novelty. Like a 6-issue series was normal. 4 issues, yes. But 12, it's like, what are you doing for this long?
Both Crisis and Secret Wars so far, I'm going to say, did not need to be 12 issues. Could have been done in 6. Probably could have been done in, 4. Yeah, you know what? Could have been done in 1.
That would have been a
You're right. That's a stretch. I know this is a stretch. 12 issues is a stretch. 1 would have been, what's the opposite of a stretch?
An Armstrong.
Great, thank you. What are we doing next time? We are doing... Oh, hey, next time. It's almost Valentine's Day. Hooray. I hope you hold your loved one close, settle down by the fireplace, drink a glass of wine, listening to some of our friends read comics. I shouldn't laugh at that. You're definitely going to do that. We're going to read one of the great romances that we haven't read about. We did our whole wedding issues, that was fun. This time we're going to read about
some Mad Love a couple years ago.
We did Mad Love.
With Harley and Joker.
And this time we are doing Nightwing and Oracle, right?
Yeah, I think she's still. Well, it's in this particular book. It's Nightwing Year 1.
Yeah,
which is, I guess, the first year of Dick Grayson as Nightwing, which is a novel. Retelling, I guess, because they don't really go back to that particular era that much. And it's him kind of bouncing in and out of his relationship with Barbara Gordon, which is fun. It's cute. I remember liking it 15 years ago, or whenever it came out, in 2005.
Yeah,
15 years ago.
Mid-2000s, somewhere around there. Yeah. It's in Nightwing number 101 through 106.
Yep. Written by Chuck Dixon, art by Scott Beatty or Scott McDaniel. It's all on DC Universe online, by the way, I found out. So...
Is that what they call it again? DC Universe Online?
No, DC Universe. DC Universe Online was the PS4 MMO. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. What do they call in their online service
DC
with the free?
Universe.
That's it?
Yeah, it's DC Universe is what the app is called. Young Justice Outsiders may be done by this point, Kia. You might want to check that out.
The new Young Justice season?
Yeah, they were releasing 3 episodes a week.
I didn't even know that was out now. I'm excited. I'm going to get into that.
Yeah.
Did I mention on the show I did try to get into the Titans TV show that they had on there? I wasn't into it though.
Yeah, I've heard mixed things. I hear the cast for Doom Patrol, which is starting soon, is supposed to be pretty good though. But I'm assuming it's a CW show.
Right, that's what it feels like. I'll have to give it a try, but I don't like it when superhero shows feel like CW shows because I did not watch Runaways, and. I'll watch anything with superheroes. I don't care how bad it is, but I couldn't get through Runaways. That was the first Marvel filmed anything that I just couldn't do.
Yeah, I bounced off of Runaways real quick.
Sorry, Runaways. Sorry. And sorry, Titans. Couldn't get into you either. But
fuck Batman.
I didn't mind that. I was like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. They're trying to set themselves apart.
I'm just like, Teen Titans is so good. What are you doing? Teen Titans Go. I love Teen Titans Go, but
boy, have you? You said you started watching Young Justice, right?
Yeah, I watched the first episode of it. It was pretty good. I was not what I was expecting.
It's fine. I think the first few episodes are fine. I got into it more, but boy, I keep saying this every time we mention Young Justice. By the end of that first season, holy shit, the way all those done-in ones kind of come together to build something more off of it is great. It's just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. So
I would recommend if there is a trial, there's a 7-day trial. Watch all of Young Justice. Read Nightwing Year 1. You can do both.
And then be done.
And then cut your losses because that service.
Yeah, cut the cord. Is that what they say? No, that's when you're going to satellite, right? Cut the cord. Yeah, so, get a satellite.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Do people say, I have a question. Nobody can answer this, but on my roof, I have a window area that goes out to a roof. You've seen it, Vince. there's a satellite there, and I'm not sure whose satellite it is, but I have access to it. I like walk around that satellite, and I could kick it if I wanted to, but I don't know whose it is. That's all.
Put a sign on it that says, "Whose is this?"
Who's it? Hey, it's you. Whose is it? I'm gonna use it to like hack the world and take over Ultron and recreate a claw. I think I could do that with a satellite. Hack the world.
Yeah, hack the planet.
That's my. Oh yeah, hack the planet. That was a thing. I was gonna be very proud of myself for creating a new catchphrase, hack the world. But hack the planet already exists. That's all right. Hack the world. All right. I think we're done here. You guys got anything else you want to mention?
No, we're good.
No, we didn't do any of our recurring segments. What was your favorite character in anything?
Jean DeWolff. She was pretty good. I really like those first few pages.
She was dead.
And the cover of issue 109 is really cool. The kind of black and white with Spider-Man's black suit, but with a red kind of light tint on it was really cool.
Yeah, it had a very Daredevil look to it, right?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Chris, you got any favorites you want to mention? Any panels? Any characters?
I like that panel at the end of issue 109 where you just saw the. I also actually that one where the chair is being
the chair
shot
with the hole in it. Oof.
Yeah. And I also liked that the credits, instead of being at the front, this predates Law and Order, remember, everyone. It's 1985. But the credits are just a black single panel at the very end where it's just, like writer, artist, inker at the very end of the book. I was like, that's interesting.
Sorry, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
I don't think comics. I had never read any comics that had done that prior to this. I don't know if they were the first to do this, but they had to be one of the first big comics to do that.
Yeah. One of them, I think, the very last issue. Most of them were like art by pencils by Rich Buckler, pens by whoever. This last one that we read was layouts by Rich Buckler, finishes by M. Hands. And I wonder, that has to be like a pseudonym, like Many Hands, somebody who's doing an extra job or something, but I don't know who. Well, we're never going to find out. Thanks for joining us. Have a mystery. You're going to go to bed wondering who is M. Hands. But don't you worry, because after I hack the world with my new catchphrase, we're going to find out. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm going to guess Al Milgram.
That's a good guess. That's a great guess. Vince, do you have a guess?
J. Jonah Jameson.
It's got to be. All right. Chris, Vince, thank you so much for joining me. To our guests listening, whatever time of day it might be, have a great afternoon, and we will see you next time by the fireplace on Valentine's Day. This is going to be a great date podcast. I promise you, just listen to us on Valentine's Day, and it's going to be perfect. Best Valentine's Day ever. See you next time. Love you. Hack the world. Bye.